You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is how can we learn to become a medical intuitive? We often marvel at the magical healing powers of the body against all odds. I'm sure many of you have heard stories of someone that was told to go home, get their affairs in order, but they survived and thrived for years to come. Some people have discovered how to harness the power of energy medicine and whole person healing, such as my special guest today, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, a visionary healthcare expert known for integrating spirituality and wellness into conventional medicine. With over 40 years of experience as a nurse practitioner and medical intuitive, she has performed 18,500 plus surgeries and collaborated with the renowned specialists like Dr. Siegel. So welcome aboard, Dolores. Really lovely to have you on board here. And I'm so looking forward to this discussion.
Well, thanks, Sandy. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and also to share my wisdom with your audience.
Yes, so my first question is, can you describe your journey from nurse practitioner in the mainstream medical system to renowned energy healer and medical intuitive? How did this transition happen?
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know what? You have to go back even earlier when I was a teenager, because believe it or not, I was on a career pathway to become a concert clarinetist. And in the 11th hour, when I was probably a junior in high school, um, I got to witness a miraculous healing of my father's chronic health condition with a non-Western medicine modality, laying on of hands, pretty much. And I I witnessed his healing from that from a chronic condition, and I knew that in my heart of hearts, in that moment when I witnessed that, my life changed forever. And it was about me going into healthcare to bridge the physical with the spiritual and the visible with the invisible. So I've been in the healthcare industry about 45 years at this current mode. I know I look really good for my age. I believe in reverse aging as you age. So
Yeah,
many
like
of us.
Benjamin Button, let's go backwards, right?
Exactly. You know what? I'm going to get younger and younger as I physiologically get older and older. So what I'm saying with that is that energy medicine is the way of the future. And being a visionary early on in my career, I knew that. And it was an interesting um, position to be in, because what I was privy to was considered major quackery back in the 70s.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so we've come a long way, and wonderful pioneers like Dr. Siegel really paved the way to bridge the Western medicine world with something that's you can't really basically see, but we know does work. So,
Yes,
and
it's a bit woo-woo only because we don't
yes,
understand the physics of something that happens. We can observe it, and it frightens people, doesn't it? When they don't understand what's going on, they get scared and they actually shut the door. They don't want to know anymore.
well, you know what? You're absolutely spot on, Sandy, because in my experience, when I've even had to share with fellow colleagues of mine who are physicians or healthcare practitioners, when I would say something, well, they said, that's a bunch of quackery. And I say, and it's actually, when you actually have the experience yourself, okay, you when you project your insecurities about what you think it is onto this person, you so totally negate their experience that they actually had. So I've had conversations with people where I have to pretty much call them out, and I do it very as a matter of fact. I said, well, are you speaking from personal experience or something you read? Well, something I read. Okay, great. And I just want to point out to you, by you responding the way you did, you actually are trying to negate somebody's actual experience. And I said, isn't that kind of arrogant of you? Showstopper. But they don't, this is what people do. And on the flip side of it, I've also had amazing people who were the biggest skeptics that I just invite them, you know what, have the experience. invite yourself to step into the experience, have the experience, and then they've been the biggest promoters.
You
So,
need to be open actually to
yeah,
receiving new information. You have to acknowledge you don't know everything, but people
absolutely.
who think they've got it all sorted have a closed vessel, and so they can't receive new information. And what is science really? It's always a theory being improved upon because new data, new observations have come to light that change the theory and improve it and advance it forward so that we know more over time. And if you shut that process of new discovery down because you know it all and you poo-poo what other people's experiences are, which are valid observations, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then how are we ever going to improve and, get out of a paradigm which may not be serving us, which is just failing, which is not healing?
No, and you're spot on. And the other thing too, I think we need to also interject too that quantum physics has really been a stepping stone and a gateway to get us into the possibilities of everything that we are experiencing now. So that's classic. And a lot of times when I have a lot of people who are very intellectual or very, math and science oriented, and they're in their mind a lot and not fully integrated in their body because they're cut off from their emotions, or they intellectualize emotions. It's those people that I love the quantum physics aspect because it's a gateway for them to possibly go in and explore that.
Well, what's the fundamental thing in quantum physics?
Yeah,
It's the split experiment, isn't it? Where the observer influences the outcome. The action of the observer has a power. Now, who'd have thought? This is what's happening. We are discovering as a humanity that we have this other kind of a power which was not recognized before, except, in the quackery world. But
well,
but it's real, it works.
and I think the other thing we need to address too, humanity for so long has been controlled as far as what to believe. It's like everything's been on the external, and we have been dummied down, so to say, not to trust that innate wisdom we have within ourselves, which is really our blueprint to what is next for each individual, not their spouse, not their kids, but for them themselves. And I think we also have witnessed through time the abuse of this power. It's like it's been either readily handed over or it's been taken from them to control the masses.
Or it's disregarded as, oh, that's just a placebo effect.
Yeah.
Well, if it's real and it's powerful, why do you
And
just
it's
throw it over,
working.
throw it out? You know,
Exactly. I just have to crack up too because in Western medicine, I still function in that world. I assist in surgical procedures, so there's more to me than just, that's where let's put it this way. I took to that like a duck to water, like I've done it before in another time and
wow,
place.
you just had an
So, I,
instinct.
yes. And so when I'm in surgery with the surgeon, I'm helping him do the operation. And I'm also tapping sometimes into what's going on with that person because the energy just moves through me and it's like getting a movie picture of what might be going on. Now, in the surgical theater, as you guys would call it, or the operating room that we call it over in the United States, is that it's a scary place for a lot of people to go, especially if you're a patient, because that's the ultimate of losing control. Basically, you're going to be put
Yes.
under anesthesia, and you're in your most vulnerable state. And when they come through
Where do
the,
you go when you're out in under anesthesia? What happens?
you know what, they're still very much in the room. Okay, they're just in another dimension.
Hmm.
They're not in their body, but they're in the room. Okay, they may be aware of it, they may not be. With me, if energy was a language, I would be very fluent in it. because I could read energy and I could feel. It's my thing is more of a kinesthetic thing
Yep.
and the feeling about it. So I know somebody's in the room. So that what this is why the theater arena is so important, that you have calm. It's beautiful. It's uplifting. Don't have an argument with anybody in the room, because guess what? Energetically, it's energy. That patient's
It's
going to feel it.
like a pollution. So,
Exactly.
so you're working with electromagnetic fields, really, and
Absolutely.
your body is tuned to those frequencies. You're like a reader, random access memory, like a computer. Your reading capacity can go into those other fields that you're
Mhm.
connected to, and you
Right.
can read what's in there, read the information, because aren't we just a product of information anyway? Everything is information.
It is. Everything is information. Information is energy.
Yes.
Everything is energy. Like you and Sandy, you and I are looking at each other right now, and we are the physical demonstration of a denser form of energy. If we were to take our cells and put it under a high vibrating microscope or high frequency microscope, you would see everything moving like this energy. Now, take that into consideration with this, your thoughts, your beliefs, emotions, whether or not they're trapped in your body or they've been experienced or partially experienced or stuff, that's energy as well. Your connectedness to yourself is also an energetic thing. Your connectedness to your higher self, which is the major soul part of who we are. We're only a fragment of that here in this incarnation. So we have that ability to tap into the bigger part of ourselves if you allow yourself to gain access to that wisdom.
Yes, so the body is a bit like an avatar when we're playing a game like Monopoly and you have your little token that you move around the board. That's the kind of analogy, isn't it? We're operating a human vehicle like a car, but our body is our biological vehicle.
Yep.
And when we understand that relationship, I think it gets a little bit easier to relate to yourself and the world and the connections. And also what came to mind before while you were talking was another analogy of the spectrum of colors, how we can't see all of the colors that exist on that spectrum. It's limited, and some individuals have an even more limited perspective of those colors, such as the colorblind. So
True.
does the reality change just because we can't see it? No, it's there, but we assume that it's just what we can see. And this is the stumbling block, isn't it, with a lot of people. They don't realize there's so much more there.
Yes, it's like we go through life with blinders on, like horses have blinders, so they only could see in front of them and not see other possibilities and the infinite possibilities that are there for us.
So in your medical intuitive capacities, you read the situation of what's there in the field, um, what's going wrong or what's been corrupted or what's discordant
Hmm.
in that musical orchestra. And you're kind of led to it, or you have a feeling to fix something or change something. Describe how that works in that theater.
Well, so first of all, it's all about having permission from the person's higher self. Okay, because sometimes people don't want to change. Okay, and if they're ready for that, that's one thing. I am a firm believer, like when I see people one on one, like, for appointments on Zoom or, in person sessions, I will give them, they'll start talking about something and all of a sudden all the things start coming together. And I, will ask questions. It's like, well, tell me about this situation and what was been going on, because it's very telling as they tell their story, how I'm able to see how this piece connected with this one. It's a matrix. It really is. Everything's interconnected in ways you have no idea. And when people start talking for me, I'm able to, tap into things and see where those lines kind of go to and how they're connected. What I'm really strongly doing with people is teaching them how to heal themselves. because going to a healer and getting healed, sometimes it
Giving
doesn't
your
stick.
power away.
Exactly. So it's about empowering people to learn how to do this for themselves so they could step into their power. Sometimes it's about learning how to trust their intuition.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
develop the intuition. And sometimes people have been exposed to chemicals which block the pineal gland, such as fluoride. And
Yep.
so there's an impediment or a kind of a block in that electrical system functioning. Because, you know, as we said before, the electromagnetic field is a field of energy containing information. And so at any time we can get blocks in those electrical connections because we're a circuit board in a sense, a biological circuit
Absolutely.
board. And so
Absolutely.
that translates from the information into the physical, into the end point of our perception of what we can see. So when you go in to help people heal or teach them how to heal, you teach them how to go into their own information field and tap into what that block may
Yes.
be, where it
Yes.
came from, what it's doing. Describe a
Yes.
typical session with someone.
Well, okay, I remember, I'm going to share this one story because this will probably drive it home a little bit. Several years back, I was working with a client in Colorado who was on the transplant list to get a liver transplant. So, he had contracted hepatitis C and, went through going through immune therapy and stuff like that, and his liver was still failing him. So we knew that it was almost as if it was a karmic debt, that him getting a liver was going to be the karmic debt being paid back to him for something that he did in another lifetime. We knew that. And it was just a matter of whatever. And he wasn't going to know this person either. We knew that too. And so what was happening, Sandy, was that he would be on the list. They would call him. They said they have a liver. He'd be on the way to the hospital, and the 11th hour it would cancel because it was not a mismatch. It wasn't a match. That
Oh,
not only happened like once or twice, it happened 3 times. And so the big
no,
conundrum was
no
like,
such thing as accidents or
no,
coincidences.
no. And so the thing was, so I tapped into that with him and I was asking the question, why is that so? And then I got this roadmap of, okay, so the liver and the, between organ systems, how I see it is like there's an in route and an out route from each organ system to the other organ to the other organ to the other organ.
It's like
There
a
was a
web.
huge, yeah, but also there was a huge block from the heart to the liver. Okay. I could see it. And I asked him, I said, and his heart was like really walled off. And I said, why am I feeling like you're hanging on to something? And it's like it's like you're holding this grudge that you've been holding for a long time. And all of a sudden he started crying. And so, that was spot on. I said, look, I said, I'm going to invite you to work on some forgiveness around that. I said, because I have a funny feeling that this is what might be holding things up a bit. And so he said, okay, I'll do that. And a week later, he got a call. It was the right liver, and he got his liver transplant.
Oh, so he had to go inside and explore his own root cause of what was
Yep.
happening.
Yep.
And,
And that
be
was,
willing to open the door, be willing to see
yep.
it.
Yep. So it doesn't matter what anybody else does. If a person is, it's almost like when you go to a healer and you ask the healer to heal you, it's like if you're not fully present and wanting that you may want it, but on a deep level, you don't. On an unconscious level, there's
Yeah,
something going
it's
on.
just that, no, 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 no. I know people like that. I,
Exactly.
I can sound like a recorded message, but it's no, no, no. And then they create circumstances which cause more pain and more suffering, which they could have avoided. But
Well,
everyone
you know what?
is at
Everybody's
their
on,
own level,
right,
right?
right. Everybody's on their own pathway, their own journey. And maybe too, who knows? this person in particular, maybe he needed to experience that whole thing about forgiveness in order to move forward so he could have the life that he needed. Because maybe the unforgiveness was blocking that liver and causing it to fail. Whereas if he received another one, it would have still failed.
And liver problems are associated with anger, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's the old term
absolutely.
called liverish.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of the liver, the spleen, and the pancreas right across there. That's like I call it the triple Lutz because it's like that's where everybody stores their anger and rage. Diabetes with their pancreas, it's like
Yes.
not experiencing the sweetness of life. There's a lot of anger stuff that happens and gets trapped. And well, you
And
look at it too, it's right where your solar plexus is as well, your power center.
and it
So
affects digestion and the whole vagus nerve. And so
absolutely.
there's the connection with your metabolism and energy levels, and
And also the toxic nervous system stuff too, because many of us
the immune
have,
system.
oh yeah, what I want to circle back to the nervous system because we've been in fight or flight for so long, and that's like the norm. That's what we
Yeah.
consider norm.
People get
And
used
it's
to it.
exactly, but it's not, and this is what trips up, I think, a lot of people's health and wellness issues.
Yeah, it comes to mind when my business is Elektra Magnesium. When we do a
Mhm.
show or an expo, we always give little demonstrations to people of how well the transdermal magnesium works to feel calm, relaxed, to relax the muscles. And a lot of the time people go, oh, I don't believe it. They're, well, no strings attached, just try it. And, if it doesn't work, you can go and it's fine. So they try it and then they're really, really surprised.
Yep.
I didn't think I had any stress there. I didn't think that that was so tight. Had no idea. But you
Yeah.
see, they have to feel the difference between the before and the after for
Well,
it to be
absolutely.
experienced and feel real to them.
Exactly. And that I think is the whole, the whole, $1 million solution. It's like people, in order for them to become a believer, they have to have the experience. And I think it all circles back to knowing that you're ready and open to receive versus being closed and resistant and stuck,
Yes,
right?
and we have to learn to use our body vehicle to be the tester through our own personal experience. That's the only real thing, isn't it? We live in such a fake world, and AI can mimic everything, and someone might have an experience with landing of a UFO. I haven't, but I have to respect their own personal experience. And if they've experienced it, then for them it's real. And I can't discount
Absolutely.
that because
Yeah.
I haven't had the same experience. We need to have, I think, more respect for observations and what people are feeling and experiencing. And I think that connection was lost. We had more of it in the old school type of doctor that got to know the family and all the family members and what was going on and what stresses and pressures were present. It's how you're feeling, what are you eating, what are you drinking. They tended in the old days to get a whole holistic picture of what's
Yeah.
going on with the health of that individual and their environment and their family. But now we like separate everything. We're a production line, like a sausage factory, and people are disconnected from
Oh,
healing.
it's totally disconnected. And I feel that we have become, things have become more and more complex. And it's to the point where it's like, let's have a renaissance with simplicity. It's just like, let's go back to simplicity, common sense, critical thinking, instead of thinking that everything's got to be check, 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 check. I see this a lot in the clinical setting because I've been in the hospitals for 45 years, and it's really kind of frightening here, realizing how people are taught in the healthcare industry, and especially with all the new technology and stuff like that. It's like everything is either black and white and they don't look at the shades of gray, but that's where the shades of gray are. There's a lot of them. You cannot, I always tell people this, it's like we're trying to convert humanity, which is a beautiful, luscious fruit salad with every fruit that you could imagine. That's an all, every fruit is a different individual. And we're trying to move that fruit salad into an orange.
A box, yeah.
They're
Closed off box.
trying to
No,
change it into one fruit. And it's like you can't, that's not possible because
monocultures
of
never work.
exactly. So, that's what makes everybody so uniquely different. And, yes, you may have an outcome, the tip of the iceberg being like diabetes, okay?
Yeah.
But underneath
Broadly similar, broadly.
right, right. But underneath the iceberg is all that hidden stuff,
Mm.
the unconscious stuff that's energy, a less dense form because it's waves and it's running the show. So people might have problems with their emotions, or maybe they never experienced their emotions, or they were really, battered, a battered person,
Yep.
meaning that they were beat up and treated very poorly. There's too many different variables that got people to where they're at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and I think I found with my observations and people that I know, doesn't really matter what the disease is. There's
Mhm.
always a spectrum of differences, and there's always a subgroup or more than one subgroup of treatment resistance. So
Yes.
what's the standard treatment for whatever the diagnosis is, then doesn't work for those people, and they become a complex case.
Oh
So
my
that just
God.
tells me that doctors have no clue what's going on.
Well, I'm going to add to what you just shared here because um, there's two Western medicine practitioners that were Western medicine trained. Dr. Andrew Weil, who is out of I want to say, University of Arizona at Tucson, and also Deepak Chopra, Western medicine trained.
Yes, I've
They
read
were,
some of his work in the
yeah.
past. Yeah.
So both of them were on a panel together, and they surmised everything that I felt for decades, but didn't have the validation to say it, but I say it now. They said Western medicine is really good at taking care of acute problems.
Hmm.
Say you fall, you break your arm, you get
Yep.
it casted. They're good at that.
With
They said
surgery.
that,
Yep.
yep, they said they're not good at chronic conditions. They don't have a clue. And that's what they said.
And
So,
associated with metabolism. You know, the
absolutely.
energy centers, the mitochondria of the cells,
Yeah.
everything electrical. There's like a big blind spot.
Oh, it is. So, and that's all to deal with the nervous system, true, as well. So, we've been in, I'm going to say fight or flight or stress. We have toxic nervous systems. I'm convinced of it.
Yep.
And when we're able to unravel that and get your nervous system regulated instead of deregulated because you're constantly going into stressful situations. I remember this as a young healthcare practitioner 40 years ago. I was working at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and I was on a school age unit, and it was a very stressful time. And 40 years ago, I just felt like my adrenaline's running so much that I wonder if I'll burn myself out. And I asked one of the doctors, I said, could you burn your adrenals out by being under so much stress? And they're
Mm.
like, no, you can't. But we know that's the truth. We
Hmm.
know that's the truth. But I had that hindsight back 40 years ago.
Yep. Yep. You can overdo it. You just push that
Yeah,
machine too far and there's no rest and recovery. So this is what
true.
we know with electromagnesium, that is the rest and recovery phase that allows the body to rebuild cells, to detox, to push out the bad stuff, and then recover stronger. But if you don't give yourself the resources and the time and the sleep for that rest and
Yep.
recovery, then
And
you're
that's,
constantly shaving off, shaving off. You're using up your stores
well,
until you get a
and
crisis.
and I think we could circle into this. It's about learning how to take care of yourself
Yes.
and learning how to trust the wisdom that comes through for you on an individual level, because what's going to be good for you may not be good for your spouse, your kids, or your neighbor, but it's going to be the right thing for you. And how do you tap into that? I tell people the gateway to get into being in your physical body is doing a mindful activity. And mindful activities have a range of being in strict lotus position, chanting Om, to going in the garden and weeding.
Yeah, that's what
Or
I do.
that's no, but that's it.
Touch
So
the
it's
soil
like,
and the grass, and
right.
I
So,
feel recovered.
well, yes. So you know what I'm talking about. Mindful activity is anything that you do that you're going to lose all sense of time and place.
Mhm.
It's like you could probably go in your garden and spend a couple hours and it goes by like that.
Yep,
Correct?
yep, yep.
Okay. That's what a
And
mindful
smell the
activity.
fresh air, and then you start to
Exactly.
hear the birds that you had ignored
Yes.
before, and your perceptions really change. They
Because,
expand.
yes, because you're in the moment. You're right here, right now. You're in your physical body. You're fully present in the moment. And you're not pouncing from being here to here trying to
Yep.
figure something out.
Well, stress is caused by a lot of pressure.
There,
It's a feeling of entrapment on an emotional level. People feel like they can't get off the treadmill. And talking to someone like you could just convince them so they believe, yes, it is possible to get off the treadmill. Yes, I can make these changes. And I think the relationship with another professional person like yourself introduces an element of trust, which is the first key to opening that door to solutions and to, expanding into the areas they need to solve the problem, is
sure.
just to believe that they can. And sometimes we just need that other person that we trust to say, yeah, you can do this. This is how you do it. Easy.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's also important to tell people this too, is that we're going through massive, massive changes. And it's not just in one country, it's globally.
Yep.
And what we're witnessing today isn't for the faint of heart. Okay.
It's a big challenge. Mm.
It is. And I just want to interject this. Having self compassion for yourself right now is huge. And the reason why I say that is that we have a tendency to judge and criticize. This is what humanity does. Not
Yep,
only
yep,
does it
yep, yep,
happen
yep,
out,
yep,
yep, but it happens inside of our head
yep,
too. So when you're able to tap into, even just say the word self compassion as a mantra,
yep.
it's higher frequency than this,
Or be
you know,
kind to yourself. Be kind.
exactly. This is what it's really all about because it all starts with self
Love,
first.
self-love. Be
Yep.
kind to yourself means that it's an expression of love. And then
Yes.
when you grow from that energy that you're putting into yourself, it spills over and you can be helpful to others as well. So
Yep.
that's the journey I think people like you and me and many others are on at the moment. We're trying to help our fellow humans to see what they can do, to see the potential. So they'll probably be really interested to find out more about what you do and how to connect with you. So can you give
Absolutely.
people your
Sure.
website?
Yeah, sure. My website is drdoloresfazzino.com. I'll spell Dolores Dolores, last name Fazzino, F as in Frank, AZZ as in zebra, INO.com. And on my website, there's some information. I'm in the process of relaunching a program called I'm Awake Now What with a partner of mine. And it's for people who are starting their spiritual awakening. And the best way I could describe it is that life had been working for them up until a point, and now it's no longer working.
Yep.
It's like
Or
you're
they're bored or
transitioning.
depressed or they've had a crisis of some kind.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of crises. And sometimes this is what we call a spiritual awakening, where it's about learning to come back to self, having a renaissance and reconnecting with yourself.
Yep.
And so it's a membership community that we meet once a month and on Zoom, and you could ask questions, and there's a community, but there's also resources and other delicious things that are available. And also there's a free guided meditation on my website. To be present in the guided meditation to be present in the moment, because I feel that a lot of times people get so ungrounded that they're in their head all the time, and this is what
They,
causes a lot of us problems.
they need to let go and just relax into it, which means they've got to get that left brain chatterbox out. So when you're listening to a guided meditation, it's a really good start to just relaxing and opening up and letting go, because the program takes over to give you what you need.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that's really lovely. We have to come to a close now. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I know it's going to make a big impact to people. Just, it's the seeds that we plant. I know they're going to sprout into big trees. I just feel it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate you.
Let's keep planting.
Let's plant some forests.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye. I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.